You believe that a sword becomes sharp by the force of the blow, by the intensity of the blow, by the violence of the impact. But Miyamoto Musashi taught something different. A sword is not made inevitable by force. It is made inevitable by the silent repetition of the sharpening stone. Day after day, movement after movement. No drama, no glory, no witnesses, and you carry a different weight, not of lost battles, but of broken promises to yourself, shame of starting and giving up repeatedly, of knowing the path but never completing it, of being held hostage by cycles where enthusiasm dies before it becomes structure. This isn't a video about temporary motivation. I'm not going to give you a magic formula or productivity hack. I'll show you how samurai discipline destroys weakness, not through violent confrontation, but through something far more devastating: absolute consistency that eliminates the negotiating ego. If you're looking for lasting transformation, subscribe. This space is a temple for men who have chosen to stop negotiating with their own words. He knows this cycle. He starts Monday with renewed determination. He promises himself, this time it will be different. 6 a.m. workout, daily meditation, reading before bed. First day, accomplished. Second day, accomplished. Third day, woke up tired, skipped workout. Just today. Next week, ritual completely collapsed, and he's back to square one. Again, always again. Each cycle doesn't just fail its purpose. It erodes something much deeper: confidence in one's own ability to keep one's word. A man who abandons discipline doesn't just lose his habit. He loses self-respect, and it accumulates an invisible emotional debt. Exhaustion from endless restarts. The feeling of being trapped in a maze where every exit leads back to the beginning. He looks in the mirror. He sees not who he is, but who he could have been if he had continued. Musashi taught, the way of the warrior knows no rest, only continual refinement. But he rests. He negotiates. He postpones. Always with valid reasons. Always with rational justifications. And a tree that bends with every wind never develops deep roots. It remains eternally vulnerable to the next storm, until one day he realizes, weakness is not the absence of strength. It's the presence of internal negotiation. Moment when a man bargains with his own word. Not just today. I'll be back tomorrow. I need to be inspired. And in this moment of negotiation, invisible to the world, devastating to the soul, the fortress he tried to build crumbles before it even begins. Then you discover the truth that no one wants to hear. Motivation is an enemy, not an ally. Modern culture has sold a seductive lie. Wait for the urge. Find your passion. Act when inspired. And he bought that lie. He waited until he felt ready. He waited for the perfect moment. He waited for the initial enthusiasm to return. He waited. He waited. He waited. And life passed by while he waited for emotional permission to act. Musashi saw through this illusion. Don't wait for the perfect moment. Refine your technique until any moment is enough. A mind that waits for inspiration to act gives control of its life to volatile emotional states. Like clouds that change shape with every wind. Like waves that never maintain the same pattern. And the ancient truth he finally understands is the opposite. Action does not follow motivation. Motivation follows action. A river doesn't ask if it wants to flow. It simply follows the course its nature has determined. But a deeper revelation is yet to come. True discipline does not strengthen the self. It dissolves the part that negotiates, postpones, and justifies. Because weakness is not defeated by a greater force. It is defeated by eliminating the internal mechanisms that fuel it. When daily ritual becomes non-negotiable, ego loses veto power over action. And modern neuroscience confirms samurai wisdom. Conscious repetition creates neural circuits that make action more natural than resistance. Until one day, not dramatically, but quietly, doing becomes easier than not doing. A warrior does not defeat an external enemy. He defeats an inner voice that whispers, "Tomorrow." If this wisdom resonates with you, sign up. Here, each reflection is a stone that sharpens the blade of the man you become. He understands now, and he decides differently. It doesn't start with a grand plan. It doesn't promise radical transformation. Start small, ridiculously small. First principle, the impossible ritual to break. 10 push-ups upon waking. Not 100, not 50, 10. So simple that it cannot justify failure. So small that ego cannot negotiate. So significant that it confirms identity every morning. I am someone who keeps my word. Second principle, witness constancy. Mark each day fulfilled, not as an achievement, but as confirmation of who you've decided to be. The chain cannot be broken, not because individual days are difficult, but because breaking the chain would betray the identity it is building. Third principle, accept imperfection in the process. Bad days will come. Exhaustion, pain, doubt, but ritual remains. Not because it's strong that day, but because ritual is non-negotiable, regardless of how you feel, regardless of circumstances, regardless of witnesses. Musashi tells the story. A man who trained in swordplay for 10,000 days without exception did not become a master of the sword. He became a master of himself, because the sword was just an excuse. Real training was eliminating the part of him that negotiated. And he finally understands, ritual is not about what you do. It's about who you become by doing it. Choose a ritual so sacred that breaking it would be betraying not a habit, but who you have chosen to be. And something surprising happens. Paradox of freedom through voluntary imprisonment. Rigid structure does not imprison. It liberates. Every decision avoided by discipline preserves energy for decisions that really matter. Metal does not become a sword through the freedom to choose its form. It becomes a sword through absolute submission to fire and the anvil. A man who doesn't negotiate with himself finally finds the inner peace he sought in 1,000 distractions. Because there is no more internal war. There is no more daily debate about what to do or not to do. It just does. Like a river flows. Like a sun rises. Like a heart beats. Automatic. Not through unconsciousness, but through a decision so profound that it transcended the need for decision. And Musashi whispers through the centuries, discipline repeated 1,000 times does not create a perfect warrior. It creates a man who does not need to be perfect to act. But testing comes. It always comes. The day you wake up sick. The day you travel. The day everything goes wrong, and an ancient voice whispers, only today can you stop. You deserve rest. The negotiating ego isn't dead. It was just waiting for a moment of vulnerability. But something changed. He doesn't confront the voice with motivational speech. He doesn't try to convince himself that he's strong. Just do it. Even if you're in doubt, even if you're genuinely tired, even if you don't feel like it. 10 push-ups, not 100, not 50, 10. And the ritual is fulfilled, not because it was easy, but because it was non-negotiable. And he realizes something profound. Weakness is not killed by violent confrontation. It is killed by lack of food. Each day without negotiation weakens her. Each ritual performed despite resistance defines her. Until one day, he doesn't know exactly when, ritual became more natural than resistance. A caterpillar doesn't decide to become a butterfly. It simply continues the process until the transformation becomes inevitable. And he crossed an irreversible threshold, not because he became perfect, but because he stopped feeding weakness with negotiation. True strength isn't in never doubting. It's in acting despite doubt until it loses relevance. Others perceive change, not in isolated actions, but in the absence of visible negotiation, unwavering presence of someone who simply is what they say they are. If this philosophy resonates with you, subscribe and hit the bell. Here, each video is a conscious pause in the midst of chaos. The sharpening stone you are becoming. A sharp sword remembers not the process that forged it. It is simply what 1,000 repetitions have made it. And he no longer remembers when the change happened. There was no dramatic moment of transformation. Just 1,000 small days accumulating into a new identity. A drop of water doesn't pierce rock by force. It pierces through constancy that transcends the notion of time. Musashi taught a simple but devastating truth. Discipline isn't about doing extraordinary things. It's about doing ordinary things with extraordinary consistency. And by eliminating internal negotiation, man does not become perfect. He becomes complete. The path isn't about overcoming weakness daily. It's about building a structure where weakness has no place. Like a house without doors to enter without doubt. Like a fortress without windows to peek through. Simple. Silent. Inevitable. Weakness dies not when we overcome it. It dies when we stop feeding it with our attention. And a true warrior doesn't defeat his enemies. He simply continues when everyone else stops. It continues when no one is looking. It continues when there is no visible reward. It continues because no promise was made to the world. It was made to himself. And that's the only promise that really matters. If this philosophy of unwavering constancy resonates with you, sign up. Here, every word is a stone that sharpens the blade of the man you become. Comment below. I don't deny. This shows that you belong to the lineage of men who have chosen to stop trading on their own words. The stone doesn't ask if the blade deserves sharpening. It simply continues its silent work. And you don't have to deserve transformation. You just have to keep going, day after day, repetition after repetition, until it becomes inevitable. Axiom Sage, where samurai discipline meets the modern man who has chosen to stop trading. Until the next forge.